What can't we imagine the night sky without? Which celestial body directly affects many processes happening on our planet? Which giant nations are competing for leadership in exploring the surface and interior of this object? Of course, you've guessed that we're going to talk about the Moon. The presence of this satellite as well as its possible absence from our sky has a global impact or could have a global impact on human life. That is why the detailed study of the largest object closest to us is a top priority for giants like the United States and China. Here the good old struggle for supremacy and resources is present, two troubles that have plagued humanity throughout its existence on Earth. But who will win this space race? Let's say right away China is currently in the lead while National Aeronautics and Space Administration with its Artemis program is trailing gloomily behind. So the Moon, how exactly did it form and when did it become our neighbor? There are three main hypotheses about how the satellite appeared in our sky. The first says that the Moon and the Earth formed from a common protoplanetary cloud. The second claims that the Earth as a larger object once captured the Moon with its gravity and forced it to orbit around it. But the most popular hypothesis, supported by soil sample results and other research, is the giant impact or mega impact. This refers to an ancient collision between the Earth and an object similar in size to it, roughly about the size of Mars. As a result of this catastrophic event, the Moon was formed from the debris. What recent news from the scientific world has partially confirmed the latest theory? They are related to the activities of China's Chang'e automated interplanetary stations. The tasks assigned to them are to study the surface and interior of the Moon. Since the project is part of the global lunar program of the People's Republic of China, Chang'e 3 delivered the lunar rover Yutu to the Moon. Chang'e 4 facilitated the landing of the Yu-22 lunar rover on the surface of the satellite. Chang'e 5 in 2020 delivered lunar soil samples to Earth for the first time since 1976, and Chang'e 6 in the summer of 2024 accomplished something that had never been done before. It collected soil from the far side of the Moon. In general, there were quite a few exclusive events during this mission. For example, Yu-22, for the first time in the history of space exploration, took a close-up photo of the far side of our satellite. Since it's impossible to transmit data directly to Earth from this hemisphere because the Moon is tidally locked and always faces us with the same side, China took care of solving this problem in advance. Back in 2018, an artificial relay satellite called Quqiao was placed at the Lagrange point between the Earth and the Moon. The satellite successfully relays valuable data to the Chinese Automated Interplanetary Mission Control Center. By the way, the lunar rover Yu-22, even while in sleep mode, had to endure the harsh temperatures of the lunar night when the instrument showed about -190°C. The rover is still on the far side of the Moon and is moving across it extremely slowly, literally exploring the surface of our satellite by touch. Its turtle-like speed is explained by the characteristics of the soil which are different from those on the visible side of the satellite. At the same time, the lunar rover set a record for operational duration as it has worked on the Moon for 340 Earth days. So, what has the rover discovered on the far side of the Moon? The thing is, China is in no hurry to share important news or sensational discoveries with the world, partly because they don't want to help their main competitors in the race, the mission organized by NASA called Artemis. However, some information still leaks into scientific journals like Science and Nature and accordingly onto media portals. At the moment, it is known that on the far side of the Moon, the Chinese spacecraft discovered unusual anorthosite glass beads, which most likely have an impact origin. They were immediately dubbed meteorite glass. Apparently, they appeared here as a result of asteroid impacts when the surface literally melted from the high temperatures caused by the strikes. Yu-22 also discovered olivine and orthopyroxene, which probably reached the surface from the Moon's mantle, again as a result of impact events. Radiation levels on the surface of the satellite were also measured for the first time. By the way, it turned out that these levels are almost twice as high as on the International Space Station and 200 times higher than on the surface of the Earth. A unique biological experiment was also conducted on board the lander. A special container held potato seeds, rapeseed, and other plants as well as Drosophila fly eggs. After landing on the Moon, the seeds were automatically watered. Later, some of them sprouted, which became a biological sensation as this was the first case of seeds sprouting on the surface of another celestial body. Which discovery made by the lunar rover U-22 caused the biggest public stir? A strange object that the rover noticed in December 2021 about 80 m away from itself. It was a cube-shaped object of unknown purpose, but that was only how it looked from a distance. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a rock of an unusual shape. Most likely, it broke off from something larger and was ejected from the depths of the crater. At the moment, U-22 remains in the von Karman crater, continuing its observations and periodically going into hibernation when another lunar night falls. That's how China found itself ahead of the rest of the world and became the first to explore the far side of the moon, the most mysterious and unexplored part. What can be said about Chang'e 5? Where and when did the spacecraft named after the Chinese moon goddess land on the moon? On December 1, 2020, the returnable automatic interplanetary station successfully landed on a basalt plateau about 2 billion years old located in the Ocean of Storms. This is the largest lunar mare on the visible side of the moon. The size of the Ocean of Storms is about 2,000 kilometers and its area is around 4 million square kilometers. Chang'e 5 not only landed on the moon but also collected more than a kilogram of lunar soil samples from the specified area and delivered them to Earth. The capsule landed in the wild steppe of China in a region called Inner Mongolia. What surprised scientists when the results of the lunar soil sample research were partially released? The age of the rocks found on the basalt plateau was about 2.5 billion years. This is not surprising because the location is relatively young. But one fragment was much older, its age is estimated to be about 4.2 billion years. Its appearance here remains a mystery, just like the fact that among the glass beads in the form of small spheres very young samples were found whose age does not exceed 123 million years. This completely disproves the theory that volcanism on the moon stopped about 2.5 to 2.9 billion years ago. But why haven't we seen volcanic eruptions during visual observation of our satellite? After all, even small-scale events like that can be seen through a telescope. The answer to this question is still unknown. In any case, this casts doubt on current ideas about the satellite's geology and requires further research. What other sensational discoveries awaited the scientific community in connection with the activities of the Chang'e 5 mission? A new phosphate mineral was found, the sixth element discovered by humans on the surface of the moon. Chinese scientists also extracted water from the lunar soil samples. This happened during the heating of the material. Here practical application of knowledge is involved. For example, during the colonization of the moon or the creation of a transit base on it, if 76 milliliters of water can be obtained from 1 g of lunar soil, then 76 L of water can be obtained from 1 ton, which is enough for 50 astronauts for a whole day. This fundamentally changes the perception of the dead surface of the satellite and makes plans for its development more realistic. And finally, Chang'e 6, how did this spacecraft manage to surprise humanity? First of all, it surprised us by delivering for the first time in history 2 kilograms of soil from the far side of the moon to Earth, specifically from the Apollo crater. Simultaneously, the spacecraft deployed China's national flag on the surface. There had been no earthly symbols at that location before. Drawing on the experience of the previous automated station, Chang'e 6 delivered soil samples to Earth on June 25, 2024, to the same region, the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. Preliminary results of the study of rocks from the far side of the moon are being covered very sparsely in the scientific press. In particular, it is noted that the soil at this location is more porous and loose and that a lot of plagioclase was found in the sample. The mineral is considered igneous and quite common in space. For example, it has been found on the asteroid Itokawa. Another important point, the delivered soil contains extremely few rare earth elements, potassium, and phosphorus. This fact significantly distinguishes this sample from those delivered by the Chang'e 5 probe and the Apollo missions. This is yet another piece of evidence of how different the visible and hidden hemispheres of the moon are in their physical and geological characteristics. It is worth noting, though not obvious, that such a difference, as well as the discovery of rocks similar to those on Earth, may be indirect evidence supporting the giant impact theory. But what about the main competitors in the United States-China space race? Unfortunately, the Artemis program hasn't had as much success as its Chinese counterparts. This research program was established in 2017 by the controversial politician Donald Trump. So far, only part of the Artemis 1 mission has been successfully completed. The unmanned Orion spacecraft, launched from Cape Kennedy in 2022, spent 25 days in space and traveled for 3 days in the opposite direction of the Moon's rotation, which is called a retrograde orbit. But Artemis 2 and the subsequent stages of this mission are in serious doubt. They planned a manned flight of the same Orion spacecraft followed by the landing of astronauts on the surface of the Moon and the launch of the Lunar Gateway Station. However, if these plans are ever to come true, the Chinese are currently far ahead of their competitors. And the problem isn't just the usual competition between countries. The fact is, if the automatic interplanetary stations of the People's Republic of China manage to discover valuable resources on the Moon, it's quite possible that representatives of this country will monopolize the explored area of our satellite, not allowing anyone else in. There are particular concerns about the plans of the People's Republic of China to reach the Moon's south pole, where scientists predict there may be a large accumulation of water ice. Read between the lines, a valuable resource, especially in the context of future colonization. As for America, all they have for now are far-reaching plans. By 2030, a landing at the Moon's south pole. By 2031, a crewed landing on the Moon. By 2032, landing on the satellite with the delivery of a lunar cruiser, and so on up to and including the Artemis 10 mission, which envisions astronauts staying on the Moon's surface for an extended period until 2035. Considering the speed at which Chinese technology is advancing, as well as the enthusiasm, even fanaticism, of scientists in China, the answer to who will be first seems obvious. Of course, it's not to say that NASA is inactive. Anti-radiation vests, launch vehicles, CubeSats, ultra-small artificial Earth satellites, and innovative types of lunar spacesuits are being developed. To sum up the interim results of the space race, the United States and China now share a common goal: who will be the first to reach the Moon's south pole? What makes it remarkable? First of all, the presence of water ice. Secondly, it is believed that there are craters of eternal darkness there, unique traps where matter remains in the early stages of the solar system's formation. Thirdly, an important factor for future missions is the existence of hypothetical peaks of eternal light. These are points on the surface of the Moon that allow equipment to be continuously recharged with solar energy even during the lunar night because they never go into shadow. Will the exploration of the Moon and being the first in this field, considering the large-scale players who have entered the competition, affect the balance of power and the geopolitics of the world? Well, Earthlings, this isn't the end of the video. We still have some very interesting and absolutely spectacular episodes ahead of us. But for me to keep delighting you with all the characters of the universe, I need your feedback. You can express it quite simply. All you need to do is give an electronic like under this video because we simply don't have any other likes, and continue the phrase "I know." This way you'll let me know that we're moving in the right direction. Don't switch the channel.